Now we're going to take a look at some of the formulas as well as geometric means. So first we've got a recursive formula. So we take our first term, multiply that by, we can tell that the common ratio is -2. So we're multiplying each term by -2. Remember this n minus 1? That just means the previous term. So 18 times -2 is -36. Times -2 is +72, times -2 is -144. All right, so the geometric means is a little bit different than the arithmetic means. You set it up the same way, but of course you have a different formula, so the solving is a little bit different. So again, for visual learners, I've got my first term, second, third, fourth, fifth term, so that I can see how many times I multiplied by that common ratio. So remember the explicit formula. We're going to substitute what we know and solve for that ratio. 16 is our nth term. 1 is our first term. We don't know the common ratio, but we have 5 terms, and minus 1 is 4. So canceling that 1, multiplying it by r, or dividing 16 by 1, we get 16 equals r to the 4th. So to solve for r, we will take the 4th root of 16, which is positive or -2. Now I think typically you can assume that it's the positive, but when you take an even root, you could get a negative answer. And as we saw in the last one, your common ratio can be negative. So we would have two possibilities. One would be t sub n equals 2, because our first term is 1, multiplying by 1 doesn't change anything, to the n minus 1 power. Our second possibility is t sub n equals -2. Let me rewrite that. Make that a little bit more clear here. -2 to the n minus 1 power. And when your common ratio is negative, you have to have those parentheses around it in order to have proper order of operations. All right, now we're going to take a look at finding geometric means. This one says find the geometric mean between 1/4 and 1/16. What that means is there's only one. So we've got 1/4 as our first term. We're missing one term for the geometric mean, and our third term is 1/16. Setting it up the same way using that formula, let me remind you. The more often you write the formula down, the faster you get it memorized. So substituting 1/16 for the nth term, 1/4 for the first term. What we don't know is our common ratio, and we have 3 terms, so n minus 1 is 2. Multiplying both sides by 4, I don't usually show my work, but I know some of you really don't like fractions, so I'm going to show my work here so you can follow what I'm doing. We'll cancel my 1/4, and simplifying 4/16, I get 1/4 equals r squared, and again, whenever you take an even root, you have two possibilities. So the square root of 1/4 is positive or -1/2. So to find the geometric mean, again, we have two options. Our first option, if we have a positive ratio, 1/4 times 1/2 would give us 1/8. Or our second option, if our ratio is negative, would give us -1/8. And here are your try questions.